do this, like this right here. Yeah, look, it looks like it's working. Is that good? Okay, that's got to turn on.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a delay.
Oh, that's okay. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kim. I'm with Reupholster. I teach upholstery and furniture restoration from my design studio here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We are going live from all platforms today. Instagram is the only one not connected to Restream, so Instagram, you're not going to get the close-up overhead shots or the changing of shots. So you're going to want to make sure you open up YouTube or Facebook or TikTok or something while you watch so you can get those shots as well. But we are live on Twitch, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. I can't think of anywhere else to go live on right now, but we'll add them as we can. Today, we're going to go over how to reupholster a spoonback chair. We're not going to go over the whole thing today, but we're going to start today's first episode of this series by learning exactly what tools and materials that we're going to need to have ready in order to be able to do this. So today we are at the tool and material gathering stage, and that's what I want to go over. We are scheduled to be on here today until 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We may go a little bit over, but I'm going to try and truncate these into 1 hour so that they're easier to go back and watch. So if you've never done upholstery before, you probably don't have a lot of these specialized tools on hand. I'm going to do a overhead shot so you can kind of see what I'm working with here. A lot of these tools are specialized extremely for upholstery use, but not everybody has these tools on hand. So we're not just going to go over all of these tools today, but we're going to go over the tool alternatives as well. So to start with, spoonback chair. This is an antique chair, and the customer actually wants to reuse as many of the materials as we can to make sure that it is preserved. Like this is a family heirloom. She wants to keep parts of the heirloom inside of it. So we are not going to use traditional materials. We are going to use cotton batting, and we're going to try and clean and reuse the horsehair that's inside. But before we get to any of this, we have to strip it all down, take it apart, clean it, repair it, fix it. And on these live streams, we're going to go through those one step at a time. But this is going to be separated into a few different parts. Today, we're going to go over tools and materials. Next week, we're going to go over stripping everything and where to start, when to stop, what we look out for, and we're going to address any tool or any repairs or anything that have to be made. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to tie springs, how to cover that with barrier fabric, how to put on the horsehair and batting, and then how to recover it with fabric. I'm hoping to bang this out in 4 episodes. It's a small chair. If I were to sit and do this by myself, in a workday, I could start it and finish it in a workday. So you're going to learn a little bit about deep button tufting during this series. You're going to learn about spring tying. You're going to learn about edge roll. You might learn about repair. When we get a project like this in the studio, typically the very first thing that we do is intake. We take the project and we take pictures and video of it in its existing state. That helps us for when we're going back through to remember what it's supposed to look like when it's done. But it also helps us to document any blemishes or scratches or anything that might be wrong with it in its current state when it comes in. When we do our projects and we work through our project management system, we're documenting every step of the way. In fact, I taught myself how to do upholstery through reverse engineering, which was documenting every step of the way and then going back through those photos and videos in backwards order when I went to go put it back together. So my first suggestion to you, when you get started with intake, is start taking pictures in video, not just of the front, not just of the sides, but of every step of the process as you're taking stuff off and as you put it back together. When we do that, it provides a really useful utility in that we know exactly what to do when we go to put it back together, but we also provide our clients with little clips of each process so that they have documented video and pictures of the history of their family heirloom piece. So that's part of the service offering that we offer our clients. And it's if you're doing this and you're trying to do it professionally, if you put pictures and video of yourself doing it on the internet, everyone and their mother is going to ask you to do something for them. There is a severe loss of skilled tradespeople in this industry. So if you start showing people you're doing it, even if you're just getting started, I promise you everyone is going to want to pay you how to do it. So first, pictures and video. You're going to take pictures of every detail that you don't quite understand. How does this button go in there? What the hell is this stuff? You're going to take pictures from the back. You're going to take pictures from the front. You're going to take pictures from the bottom. You're going to take detailed pictures of all of the limbs, all of the carved wood, everything that's on it. So that, especially if there was some sort of misunderstanding when it was finished and a client was just like, oh, looks all scratched up here, you can say, no, that was all scratched up when we got it. And if they didn't pay you to refinish the wood, you'll have that as documented proof. We haven't run into a lot of that, but you might run into it. So you want to have that documented. So now for tools and materials. I'm going to go over all of these sort of in the order that we're going to use them. Once you've taken pictures and once you've taken video, you're going to want to start gathering everything you need before you start. If you have everything you need before you start and set up, separated into the order that you're going to use them, the work process is going to go much faster for you. Today, I've kind of just got everything setting up, but I'm going to go in the order of what you're going to need it. So the very first thing you're going to need to do when you start a project like this is you're going to need to remove staples, nails, or any fasteners, anything that's holding the fabric and the material on. If you are doing this from home and you've never done this before, you probably do not have a staple remover handy. So the first thing that we'll go over is the alternative you can use at home if you don't have the specialized tools, which most people find useful, a flathead screwdriver, just like this one. If you can use one that has a really thin tip, that's going to get up underneath those staples easier, and it's going to make it easier to get out. And then you can leverage the screwdriver by just sort of bending it down. If you can't get up under there easily, putting the screwdriver right next to the staple and hammering it down up underneath it and then bending it down will help it get out. Try to avoid pulling with your hands like this. It's a lot of impact on your body, and this craft takes a lot of impact on your body over the course of time. So whenever you can relieve that impact on your body, you're going to want to do that. So try not to pull. Instead, use a twisting motion because it leverages up underneath the staple and pulls it out. Now, a screwdriver isn't likely to pull out the whole entire staple, so you're also going to need a pair of pliers. I prefer needle nose pliers because I have carpal tunnel. These are easier for me to hold. But you can also use lineman pliers like this, or what do you call this? Pliers. This is another pair of pliers that is adjustable like this. My husband likes these because they're curved and they can grab the staple and then leverage off the frame this way. I like using needle nose pliers because you can grab them and twist them and pull it out that way, just like a curling iron. These, I think, serve the same purpose as these ones right here. The shape of that will allow you to sort of roll those staples off. So first and foremost, make sure you have a screwdriver, make sure you have pliers. You also may find yourself having to take apart the frame or parts of the furniture in order to access areas where there's fabric attached to the frame. And in order to do that, you're going to need screwdrivers. Antique pieces typically have like flathead screwdrivers. You may have a Phillips in there too. Modern furniture has needs an Allen wrench to do it, so you might want to get yourself a set of Allen wrenches, both the US and the metric versions, and that'll allow you access to the frame and access to get inside of it. Staple removal. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn this down to the bench so you can kind of get this set up here. We've gone over screwdrivers, we've gone over pliers. The next thing I want to go over is staple removal. So these are the most common staple removers that we use in the studio. Now I got this one here, which is an Aero brand staple remover, to show everybody what not to buy to remove staples. Because it's not great for removing staples. It's got a very blunt tip. It's kind of thick too, so it's hard to get under there. And it's almost like a springboard. This isn't flexible with your hands, but trust me, when you go to remove stuff with it, it like flings it all over the place. Terrible for removing staples, but really, really good for removing decorative nail heads or little upholstery tacks. It works like the end of a hammer. So this is actually a tool we use very frequently in the studio, despite me dogging on it for years. So this you can get at a local hardware store. The rest of these you cannot. On this particular chair, the one tool that I'm probably going to be using the most to remove staples is this staple remover. It's called the Double Rock Staple Remover. It was designed to take the impact off of your body. All of these tools are ambidextrous, so whether you're left-handed or right-handed, you can use any of these. It's got these two little nubbies on the side. Let's see if I can get close here. And each of these nubbies has a little gouge in the side. So this gets up underneath the staple and that gouge grabs it. So when you twist it, it'll just come right out. And it rocks in both directions, hence the name. This tool is my favorite tool to remove staples. It removes staples the best, but it also goes dull very quickly. So I only use it when I'm working on projects that have show wood. On this chair, this is what I mean by show wood right here. So this is, all the upholstery goes right up next to the decorative wood edge. And sometimes the other staple removers are too aggressive on that, so it'll actually damage the wood. This Double Rock Staple Remover is going to do less damage on your project. So this is the one I recommend whenever you're doing a project that has show wood. This also is only available on Amazon. I couldn't find it anywhere else. I've been buying them for years. That's the only place I've ever been able to find it. I even reached out to the company and they never got back to me. So I think that that's where you're going to end up having to get. It's like a $26 tool. These tools are a bit more expensive, but they're going to last forever. I've had both of these tools as long as I've been doing this. I have a lot more now. So I have all of the ones that I started with still, and I've purchased more because we teach classes. These are both manufactured by C.S. Osborne, which is known for their upholstery tools and supplies. They've been around for a really, really long time, like I think over 100 years. So they know what they're doing when it comes to upholstery tools. These tools I sell on my website, so you can purchase those directly from me. Of course, they have cheaper versions of this one. I don't think you can find a cheaper version of this one. So you can find them anywhere. But these ones last a lot longer than the cheaper versions. I know because I have both, and I burn through the cheaper versions like every couple of months, because when they get dropped on the ground, the tips of them bend and then they're no longer sharpened, so they're not as easy to use anymore. I do not have that problem with these. The metal seems to be harder. So let's go over the 124 first. This is the C.S. Osborne 124. The tip is double-sided. Of course, it's ambidextrous, just like the rest of them. It's very sharp on the ends, which allows it to get under deeply embedded staples really easily. And it also has like this little groove right here. So when you get up under a staple with the tip, you can get the staple inside that little groove and then twist it right out. And for the most part, it takes the staple out all the way with it. This is one of the more popular tools here in the studio, second only to the C.S. Osborne 120. That's what this one is. This tool is designed to take the impact off of your body via this little bent head right here. It's got two very sharp little pokey spots right there, and those allow you to get up under deeply embedded staples very easily. And then it allows you to grab the staple in between the two prongs and twist it right out like that. So you don't have to be pulling up really hard. This is going to take the impact off of your body. This is a very quick, easy tool to use. What I do suggest when you're using these tools, a lot of people by default, they come at it from the side, like they're coming at it this way. But if you do that and your hand's in the way and you slip, you're going to end up stabbing yourself. You don't want to do that. So my suggestion is to use them standing straight up, going down into the wood next to the staple, and then bending them down. We'll go over that when we go over staple removal more. Okay, so we've covered how to take it apart, how to remove the staples. Another thing that you might want to help make staple remover a lot faster is to cut away the material right next to where it's fastened to the frame and then grab it with a pair of pliers and pull it all out at the same time. And in order to be able to do that, you're going to need some sharp razors. This is a cobalt razor handle here. These are garbage blades. We've used so many different types of razor blades in the studio, and I highly recommend the DeWalt carbide diamond plate or something, carbide tip, the DeWalt carbide tip blades. These are trash. Those last a lot longer, so you're going to go through less of them. They're stronger. The tips don't break off of them. Every other blade that I've ever used was trash. So we've got trash blades here in the studio because we burn through them a lot. This is a dispenser where the you can actually poke the blade right out of the dispenser and use it that way. That makes it really easy to use quickly when you need a new blade really quickly, and then they're double-sided so you can use both blades. If you don't have a razor blade, you can get yourself a nice sharp pair of scissors. They should be fabric scissors like, but you're not going to want to use them for both this and cutting your fabric because it's going to go dull really quick. We keep garbage scissors like this around, but these aren't always good for removing fabric very quickly. So we have sharp scissors that we sharpen over and over again to use in purposes of cutting this off. Now, when I talked about cutting off the material first and using the pliers to remove it, we'll go over that when we do staple removal. But what I mean is you're just cutting it all around the edge of where it is attached to the frame. And then you go back through and pull everything out. You might find staples are holding it down. You might find upholstery tacks are holding it down. You might find glue is holding it down. You never know what you're going to find in there. So having sharp utensils to cut that away is going to make it a lot faster. Sometimes when you remove the staples, it's not going to pull the staple all the way out. It's going to break off. If you can't grab it with your pliers and pull it out, there's nothing left to do but knock it back in. So you're going to need a tack hammer, a hammer with a really tiny tip, because especially if you're getting up next to that show wood, you're going to want to make sure that you're not knocking into that wood. So a small tack hammer is going to be ideal. There's two different types of tack hammers that I use. This is for hammering anything like wood and metal. This one with the white silicone tip I use specifically for hammering in decorative nail heads. You don't want to use that for hammering in wood and metal because it'll scratch up the tip and that'll scratch up your nail head when you do it. So these are the two different types of tack hammers that you can get. After you've stripped everything down is when you're going to start putting stuff back on. So you strip it working from the bottom up, and then you're going to go back through the same direction to like put everything back on. So the first material that you have to put on before you, I don't want to do materials yet. The first material that you have to put on before you do anything else is you're going to have to retie the springs. This one specifically. Not every project is going to have springs in it, but this one has coil springs in it. And in order to be able to retie those springs, we're going to have to reapply the jute. Important to note that I'm going to be stripping this whole entire chair down to the bare wood frame. We're taking everything off of it. Jute webbing, springs, strings, all of that. Sometimes you might get into these pieces and see sinuous springs, which are those zigzag springs. This project actually has coil springs in it, and those we're going to be retying again. So to start, before we can tie the springs, we need to put the infrastructure back on, which is the jute webbing. And in order to be able to apply jute webbing properly, you're going to need a webbing stretcher. These are two different kinds. This is a Dritz webbing stretcher. I think this is less than 20 bucks. You can get this online. This is a C.S. Osborne webbing stretcher. This is between 60 and 75 bucks. I can't remember. It's more expensive. This one I have available on my website. This one you can find online. But important thing to point out is it's just a block of wood with pokey things on it. That's it. You can make your own block of wood with pokey things on it. Specifically, if you have a brad nailer, then you can just shoot brad nails into the end of it. The other end of a brad nail is sharp enough that it'll poke through the jute. If you don't have a brad nailer, you can still buy brad nails and nail those into it by hand. That's fine too. All you need is something to give you some leverage off the frame that's going to grip onto that jute webbing so that you can pull it down like this. So get yourself a webbing stretcher, but it doesn't have to be fancy. This is my favorite one. I prefer this to any because it allows me to get closer to the frame. This one pulls me away from the frame a little bit. So in order to attach all of these materials to your frame, you're going to need some form of attachment. We do not use upholstery tacks here. Upholstery tacks leave bigger holes in your frame, and a lot of the projects that we're going after are already antique and they've already been reupholstered a bajillion times and they already have giant holes in them. So we're trying to minimize our impact on the actual wood of the frame because there's a finite number of fasteners that your frame can hold. This isn't going to hold very many. This chair is probably 100 years old. So we don't want to traumatize it. We want to go easy on it. And for that, we're going to use staples. Now you can use, let's see, I'm going to put these 3 down. These are the different staplers that we have here at the studio. Most people have something like this at home. This will work fine. This will work great. You're not going to be able to reach all places with it, and it takes an incredible amount of force from your hands to keep stapling it. And if you've taken staples out of something already, you're going to know that you're going to have to put 100 million of them in. And putting 100 million of them in, doing this with your hand, is going to be really hard on your hands. If you've ever worked with computers before for your job or anything, this is going to hurt you. This is going to be physically painful. And the staples for them are much more expensive. So I highly suggest a pneumatic stapler. That's what we have here. In order to do a pneumatic stapler, you're going to need an air compressor. Behind me here is my air compressor. This is a Cobalt Quietech air compressor. It's 26 gallons. We use this in the studio and up to 10 people will be using it at a time. It's set to 60 PSI, sometimes between 60 and 90 PSI. The only tools we really use with it are the staplers, but sometimes we use air tools and sometimes we use paint sprayers. Now, depending on what kind of air compressor you get, you're going to be limited to what and how many tools that you can use, which is why we have a big one. Whenever you purchase a pneumatic stapler like this, it usually has a label on it. If it's not directly on the gun, it'll be on the box that tells you how much PSI, which is pounds per square inch of air pressure, this tool is going to need to operate. And this one needs at least 60 PSI to operate. Now a paint sprayer is going to need way more, like 100 PSI or something like that. I can't remember, but you're going to need a lot more air. If you try to use a small air compressor on a tool that requires more pressure, that air compressor is going to be running all of the time to keep itself full. And that motor is only going to last so long until it quits. So when you're using pneumatic tools and you're using sprayers and you're using staplers and you're using multiple, a larger air compressor is going to be your best bet. So this is why we use this one, because we also spray paint. We can use an pneumatic sander. We can use all kinds of stuff with it. My favorite stapler is the BIA or B-A. I don't know how to say it. It's capital B, lowercase e, capital A. I've never heard anyone else say it out loud. This is my favorite one to use. If you're going to buy yourself a pneumatic stapler, you're going to want to buy one with the long nose first. There's long nose staplers and there's short nose. Both of these have long nose. You're going to have projects that are going to require a long nose to be able to get in and access it. And if you don't have one, you're going to be limited to what you can do. This project in the back of it, where the frame comes together, is very narrow. I'm only going to be able to reach inside there with a long nose stapler. Now this stapler, the short nose and long nose are between $400 and $500, so they're pretty pricey, but they have cheaper versions of that online. This is neat. I think this is under $100 for the stapler. Works exactly the same. In fact, everything looks exactly the same on this stapler as it does to the $500 one. It has the label on it that tells you the PSI. All of the settings and everything are the same. This is a 3/8 inch crown 22 gauge stapler. So those are the staples you're going to want to buy, and they're interchangeable between these two things. That is a teeny tiny staple. When you remove them, they end up breaking into two pieces. So you're going to end up needing pliers to pull that out. Let me see if I can get that to zoom back out. Well, we can do this manually. There we go. So 22 gauge staples. Now a stapler like this takes the T50 or T10. I can't remember what it's called. It $10 for 1,000 staples. The staplers for this is $10 for 20,000 staples. So you're going to spend more money on a tool like this that is going to impact your body worse than you are going to spend on this. And then the staples for that come in a box like this. And if you're just by yourself, you're not going to use a ton of these. They come in different lengths. This one's a 1/2 inch long. You can get them as small as a 1/4 inch long, and you're going to want to do that in areas where you want to make sure that the staple isn't going to blast out of the back of your project. I can't get that back in there. I'm just going to use that. So we've gone through how to attach. Oh, one thing I missed. Oh, we'll get ready to go to materials. I think that, last thing for tools. 2 things. 1, a regulator. You're going to need a regulator. It's hard for me to explain to you what for right now because I don't have a use for it to show you. Regulators are good for tucking things. They're good for keeping things in line. They're good for making things look sharp. Have one of these. If you don't have a regulator, any pokey thing and all works. A long needle works. Where's my long tufting needle? I brought one over. But you're going to need, I put on the wrong table. Thank you. If you don't have one of these, you're going to need one of these long tufting needles to do buttons like this anyways. This will work in place of that too. So get yourself a long tufting needle. If you're doing deep button tufting, the needle needs to be long enough to go through the frame completely so that you can see it. So you'll need a long tufting needle, and you're also going to need a curved mattress needle. Let me see if I can zoom. So the curved mattress needle looks just like this. You're going to need this for any of the hand stitch parts you need. A straight needle will not work. So get yourself one of those, and you're also going to need a pin cushion with a bunch of straight pins because this is going to help you make decisions that I call staple mitigation that prevent you from making or putting in too many staples early on so you don't have to remove them. Okay, I think that we've gone over all of the tools. Now I'm ready to go through the materials. I'm just going to get this table out of the way. Oh, last tool. Sorry, we didn't go through all of the tools. Last tool we're going to need to make the buttons is going to be a button press. I'm going to get this back. Okay. Now a button press like this. This is a C.S. Osborne, or it's a handy button button press. This is like 100 years old. You can get these. They make them the same today as they did back then. This also doesn't just do buttons, but it does snaps, it does grommets, it does anything you need to like press into fabric like that. So this is going to be universal for a lot of different projects that you need. It is going to require some parts though. This isn't enough. And the button press itself, brand new, is like $400 or $500. But I promise you, you can find these used. Everybody's aging out of the business. So these are all over Facebook Marketplace right now. So go on there, find yourself a good used one. It's going to last forever. The parts that you're going to need with it, can you find me the blade for this? I forgot the blade. Are going to be the silicone block for cutting. Some people use wood. I think early on we used a wood block for a lot of things. This has just got like fabric embedded into it. That's going to prevent your die cutter from going dull. And then you're going to need the die cutter as well in order to be able to cut through all of the fabric that you need to make your covered buttons. You're also going to need the button die that is the size of the buttons. This is for a 3/4 inch button. I think they call it a number 32. So you're going to need the right size die for your button. Now the button press is $400 or $500 brand new. These dies are $200 to $300 brand new. These blades are like $100 to $200 brand new. They do last a really long time and they can be sharpened if you got friends with a lathe, but they are very expensive. But it does allow you to cut and press a ton of buttons at one time. If you can't get your hands on any of these, you can get drits, the little drits covered buttons, and manually do them. But I will say pressure over time causes those to pop. They're not very effective buttons. So I think that that is it for tools. what we have left now is material. So let me get this moved out of the, get this back on. Okay. Thank you, Cross.
Issue to resolve on contrast.
Oh, is that too bright? You can talk. You can talk. We're gonna cut all this out and post. Thomas is gonna fix the contrast. Do we have any comments?
We did have someone on TikTok give us art.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Here's just a second to rearrange this. White is usually a good way to figure out contrast.
Yeah.
See how hot this is?
Oh, oh, weird. On which one? Onto.
Oh, yours is delayed. You're fine. Camera's fine. I think that looks good. Oh no, look at my hand is still hot at the top right here. Let's get that more defined.
Like there.
Yeah. No, that's more. That's way hotter. Lower. You need to go way down. Lower exposure.
Oh, exposure. Okay, here we go.
There we go. Oh, too low.
Right.
Maybe up a little bit. Right there. That looks good.
That was where we were. Okay, well, let's see. Kraus, how does it look on big screen? If it was coming through like you were getting a lot of grain.
He can't see it yet there. It's too delayed.
Oh, okay.
When you guys go to watch the long form versions of this, we're going to cut all this out.
All right, I'll get out of the way. I think if we have anything, we'll let you.
Okay, good. I think that's good. Let me move this back a little bit. Okay, now we are ready to get into the materials of it all. So we talked about, hold on one second. Crosby, this camera, I need it just to be tipped up a little bit. Right up too far. Down, 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 down. Right there is good. Oh, God damn it, now it's following me. Okay, let me get the stream deck back over here. Oh. Thank you. And I want to... How do I stop it from move? Oh, there we go. I got it. Zoom out. Good. Okay. And I think I need to move this up. We just got to check the overhead real quick, guys. Make sure I can show you what I'm seeing. Move these into the frame. And then I think I dropped my burlap. Oh, it's right here. Okay. Move that there. Okay, for the next step, what we're going to do is go over all of the materials you're going to need to gather to be ready. I'm using more traditional materials on this project. It doesn't require a lot of padding. It's actually more of a decorative chair. And the client has requested that we keep as many of the original internal materials as we can. I know from touching it that it has horsehair in it because it's poking out and I can feel it. It might have some other organic materials in there too. Horsehair lasts a really long time. Hog hair lasts a really long time. Peat moss does not. And sometimes those hairs will have peat moss mixed in. Sometimes it'll just be peat moss. Sometimes it'll be hay. Sometimes it'll be coconut hair. The more organic materials tend to break down over time. So we may or may not be able to use the natural materials. Even if we can't, we're going to be using cotton batting to fill it up. So I'm going to go bottom up and cover everything that we're going to use to put this back together. Now, the first thing that we're going to be putting back on after everything's stripped down and cleaned and prepared and all of that is going to be jute webbing. I use this red striped jute for seats, and then we would use this black stripe, or sometimes they call it green stripe because the dye like bleeds, but you would use this for the seat back. This is a lot thinner and not as strong as the red stripe. A lot of times we just use red stripe on everything. We just happen to have this black stripe around. You can use red stripe on everything if you don't want to like worry about it, but you can't use the black stripe on the seat. It's just not thin or thick enough to handle human body weight. It'll be fine for the back of your seat because it's just providing infrastructure, but it's not okay for the seat. So we're going to use jute webbing to build up the infrastructure first. On the seat, how many straps of jute webbing is going to be dependent on how many springs you have, because the springs are meant to sit on the crosshairs of that. Typically, you see about 9 springs in a seat like this. I have no idea what's going on in here, though, so we don't know. I use a clinch it tool, which we'll go over in just a second, to attach those springs to the jute webbing. And you can hand stitch those springs to the jute webbing too. You'll use that tufting needle that I showed you earlier, along with some button twine like this. Now this is nylon wax bonded button twine. This will break, like cut through your hands before it actually breaks, but this is going to be a good type of twine to use, and I carry this on my website, to sew the springs to your jute webbing. So you'll need a long tufting needle, this button twine, and you can just sew them right down. You can save yourself a lot of time, if you're planning on doing this professionally, you can save yourself a lot of time by getting yourself one of these. This is called a clinch it tool, and it starts with a K, Klinch-IT. And this pushes these little brackets, so it's not even loaded. Let me load it for you. It comes with these clinch it brackets. Let me show you these close up. This is the paper side of them. This is the other side. This hump side is the side we're going to load it in at. This paper side, you can barely kind of see the teeth poking through. That's what pokes through the jute webbing. So this basically goes on the spring, like around the spring like this. The clinch it tool pushes down on that little hump, and then the teeth go like this once they're through the jute webbing. So that's what that's for. This goes in the clinch it tool. We're going to load this into the clinch it tool. The hump goes down this channel here, and gravity pushes it down. All this tool is a pusher. It just pushes. So these will go down to here. This little lever, you'll push this, and it's going to push the pusher down and open up those, and it's going to deposit those one at a time onto your springs. You're going to need 3 or 4 per spring, depending on what your frame is going to allow you to get in at. At least 3, no more than 4. That should be fine. Once you have your springs attached, you're going to be tying them with Italian spring twine. Very important. You can't just use any twine. This is wax bonded hemp Italian spring twine, and it's strong enough to hold human body weight. Now, a human body, I'm 170 pounds. When I sit on a chair though, it's like 300 or 400 pounds because like I'm sitting down with pressure. So you're going to need a string that is going to hold up to that human body weight to people flopping around on the furniture. Now this chair isn't going to be getting a lot of sitting. It's mostly decorative, but a strong spring twine is what you're going to need. Do not use twine from the hardware store. It is not strong enough. After you tie your springs, and after you even put jute webbing on the back, you're going to want to cover up those areas with a barrier fabric. That's going to prevent all of your outer padding materials from falling through the frame. So it's going to cover up all the holes and the gaps between the jute webbing on there. You can use burlap. I use a synthetic burlap here in the studio. This is shiny on one side, fuzzy on the other. I'm not 100% sure why it's fuzzy on the other side. We use it shiny side up because when we're using foam, we'll actually glue the foam to the shiny side and it sticks better that way. It kind of just peels away from the fuzzy side. So if you have any information on why that side is fuzzy, please let me know, because I have no idea why. I've never used it fuzzy side up. So after you cover up all the holes with a barrier fabric, now it doesn't have to be regular burlap, it doesn't have to be synthetic burlap, it can actually be any medium to heavyweight fabric. A lot of times in class, students will reuse the fabric that was on the outside as barrier fabric to save money so they don't have to do that. That's fine. You just need to cover up those holes with a strong material that can hold human body weight. The outer upholstery on your chair should cross all those boxes. So after you cover it up with your barrier fabric is when you start building back up the material. Now we are probably going to use the horsehair, everything that's inside here. We also may need to use edge roll. I'm going to have Crosby go run and grab me some of that. But we are going to be padding this back up with cotton batting. And I carry this on my website, and this is exactly how it comes, like this, in a big roll. This is a brand new roll, never been opened, so it looks like this. In between, like it's all rolled up, and in between the rolls, there's some tissue paper to help keep it from felting. This is a really delicate material, so you don't want to play with it a lot. I'm going to use this to build up the seat, and I'm also going to use it to build up the back before I put on fabric. Now, edge roll, like this, is what helps define the shape of your seat. It also protects your fabric from rubbing up against the sharp edge of the wood frame underneath. And in this case, the edge roll brings up the height of the seat so that it's a little bit higher than the springs. A lot of different ways to use it. So you can use it to sculpt the shape in your chair. You can use it to bring the height of your deck up so that it's the same height with your fabrics. And it comes in different sizes. This is a smaller jute, this is a smaller edge roll, and it comes even smaller than this. Sometimes you'll see the smaller edge roll around arms to help round out the shape of the arm. This is a bigger edge roll. This one is intended for seat decks. So the edge roll would actually go on before you put on your foam and batting. That goes up underneath it. And then once we have all of the cotton material on, we're going to cover it with fabric, and we're going to make our buttons. I have here the number 32 button shell fronts and button backs. You're going to need both of these to make your buttons. I also brought springs out too. Your chair, if it had springs, likely you can reuse these springs. I've only ever once uncovered a chair where the spring was in a condition that I couldn't reuse it. It was broken, it was rusted through, but these last a really long time, and chances are you're going to be able to use this again. So reuse your springs, but if you can't reuse your springs, you're going to probably want to order them. If you're building a frame up from scratch, we just did that with a wingback. It had never been upholstered before. We were building up a brand new frame, never had anything on it, so we added springs. If you're going to be adding springs, you're going to have to know a little bit about springs. This particular spring is a 9-inch tall spring. It's a 9-gauge spring intended for seats. So it takes a lot of pressure to actually compress it. 9 gauge is probably universal standard for a seat spring. They do come thicker, they do come thinner. Thinner means it's going to compress a lot easier. Thicker means it's going to take a lot more pressure to do it. 9 gauge is standard. What size spring do you need? How tall? Well, that's going to depend on your frame and what you're planning to do with it. Sometimes springs are used to create a flat deck that you can put a cushion on that needs to sit flat. Sometimes springs are used to make them rounder. The taller the spring, the rounder it's going to be. The shorter the spring, the flatter it's going to be. That being said, I probably wouldn't be able to use a 9-inch spring on this frame because the inside box of the frame is just a couple inches tall. And the 9-inch spring is going to cause a lot of pressure on that to keep it compressed down close to that 2-inch box. So I'm actually going to be using, I'm going to reuse these springs, but I'm sure they're probably closer to a 6-inch spring. If you're building out your own springs, good rule of thumb is to make sure that spring is like anywhere from 2 to 3 inches taller than the box that you're putting it in. If you want it to be rounder, you can go a little bit taller, but I've tried using like 9, 10, 11-inch springs on something like with a crown with a short thing, and it popped my strings out and broke them. So I don't recommend it. You can also build that curve up with the materials you put on top of it. You don't got to take all your risks in this spring. Then we're going to put the fabric on. We're going to put the buttons in. We're going to use the wax bonded button twine to tie the buttons into. So this is going to be helpful to tie your springs on, but also to tie your buttons to the chair. And then after we have all of the fabric on, you're going to want to put your trim on to cover up the staples that you use to put the fabric on. This is a braided gimp. This here comes in every color of the rainbow. This is probably the most popular version that you see on there, but they have a lot of different types of braided gimp like this that you can use. They've got it in every color. They've got it in blended colors. This is a kind of a cheap version. I tried using this recently and it falls apart really easily at the ends, but there's a lot you can do to sort of melt the ends and prevent those from fraying too. This also you might use to put underneath your decorative nail heads. This is going to provide a decorative base for underneath your decorative nail heads. So after the trim is on, I think that's it. I think that we've covered everything just in time. It's like 1 o'clock. I'm going to go through and answer any questions we might have. Do we see any in the chat? Let me see if I can pull it up on here. Chat is not loading on my end. Hello, Mohammed. Thanks for joining today. Crystal says, I love your shirt. Thank you. This shirt is from Tragic Girls. You can follow them on TikTok and Instagram. I got the poster of it first and then saw they made a shirt. I love it. I highly recommend for any female. Had someone teach me, but he was mad at me when I became better than the teacher. Yeah, men have a tendency to do that. Thanks for sharing. Do you reuse things like springs? Yeah, we went over that a little bit. Most of the time you can reuse any, like the sinuous springs or coil springs that you find inside there. As long as they're not like rusted through and broken, you should be in good shape. They're built to last. And then Travis says those little clips are razor sharp. I think he was talking about the clinch it tool brackets too. Yeah, we refer to these as death tape. We refer to ply grip as death tape. They're all very sharp and you can cut yourself on it. Hello, Alessandra from Canada. Welcome. Well, guys, I think that's it. That's we covered the whole thing today. Let me see if I can get this camera to follow me a little bit over here, where the chair is. So this, is a spoonback chair that we're going to be working on. Next week, we're going to start off by stripping it. This week, we just went over all the tools and materials that we're going to need to do it. So if you want to join me again next week to learn about the next step, you can follow along. We're going to go through this one step at a time. The recordings of this, the edited recordings, will go back on YouTube so that you can go rewatch the live replay. And we're going to try and edit that down to make it way more fancy than it was going on here today. So thank you everybody for joining me. I appreciate you. My name is Kim. I teach upholstery and furniture restoration from my design studio here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. You can attend these classes in person in the studio. In fact, we have a weekend retreat coming up next week for Valentine's Day. We have 16 ladies coming out to learn how to do upholstery for the weekend. Their stay, their meals, their materials, everything is included. I have one spot left for my August retreat, and then we have 3 light retreats, which include the weekend of classes, meals, and materials, but it doesn't include your stay, still left that you can purchase. You can attend any of my classes here in person or virtually online. My Bring Your Own Project schedule is up there, but you can also schedule studio floor time or private lessons. So if you have nothing better to do, you want to learn a little bit about upholstery and furniture restoration, follow me live here on Tuesdays. I'll teach you for free, or you can join my Zoom classes, or you can come here in person and learn from me here. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.